Greetings, my friend. We are all interested in the future, for that is where you and I are going to spend the rest of our lives. You are interested in the unknown, the mysterious, the unexplainable. That is why you are here.
10 minutes left. Yeah, but there's still some time. It's not the final score. We need more than the numbers we're given. Show us you live and breathe the game. You're more than a name. That's what we came for. We can bring you more than the score. Every story. Let's take this thing off of the field into the real world, away from the numbers,
Hello and welcome to the AFTN Preview Podcast, episode 284. I am Kylian Mbappe's celebration instructor, Gideon Hill. Joining me is the founding member of the Rubbo Sweater Creation Committee. It's Nick Ruprecht.
Yeah, I like his style. He's got a good style.
He's got a good style for a manager. With Joe on baby duty this week, Nick. Congrats to him and his wife, by the way.
Yeah.
The two Dutchies take charge. I feel like we need a special Dutch treat to kind of celebrate the occasion, but as us Dutch people are, I was too cheap to buy one, so we'll avoid that this week. So, with the Whitecaps game on the way on Saturday, game last night, which we'll touch on in a minute. Opening question. If you were a club manager in Europe right now, and you had the money to sign any player in the world, anybody, doesn't matter if it's Ronaldo quality or Marco Bustos quality, who would you sign?
I just want to make that one point that it's always dangerous to sign people after a World Cup.
That's true. I was going to say based on World Cup quality, yeah.
Yeah, because World Cup, sometimes these players can play really well in a tournament, but they don't fit into your system. But if I was to want to purchase someone right now, I guess I would go with Conte. I thought he did.
Really? Okay.
I thought he didn't do super great this World Cup, but he did enough.
I thought it was interesting in the final when he got subbed off with about half an hour to play. But
yeah,
I mean, to be fair, the game was a little bit out of reach of that hand, but still, you want your best players in the game when you're, it's a World Cup final, right? So,
but I think he did a lot to help them get there.
Yeah, he did. I'm not, pointing fingers, but it's just questionable substitution there by Deschamps, the France coach. All right, time for some complete the sentences. Mm-hmm. 3 of them this week. First one, that Alphonso Davies goal in the 93rd minute was fantastic.
Yeah.
I said brilliant. Just, what kind of player at his age would have the demeanor to beat 3 guys
in the box,
take a cutback, and then have the idea that, hey, I'm not going to pass, I'm going to shoot, which, in years past, you would have seen guys try and pass, go their way 1-2 into the box, but Davies with a fantastic strike. Seeing Rooney in DC colors is
weird, but that's what I said. Weird.
I said odd. Mm-hmm. I guess it's the same.
But at least it's a united team.
Yes, maybe he thought about that. He's like, I'm going to go to some United team.
I don't know what parts of DC they united, but I don't know.
I knew he wasn't going to go to New York City FC because, Manchester City.
Yeah,
you see
exactly.
All right, and what is the Caps' biggest need at the moment, Nick?
Secondary creativity.
So, outside of Jordi Reyna, Alphonso Davies, would you say another player?
Yeah, maybe someone more deeper role to, give some different creativity there.
Okay. I think it is a Kendall Waston connection in midfield. You have Ali Ghazali hasn't been starting a whole lot lately. Efren Juarez has been doing good. He got an assist against Chicago a couple weeks ago, but I just think Waston needs somebody to kind of connect the ball from him all the way to the striker position, spreading the ball around and kind of make that happen. Jordan Much has done well, although now he's kind of pushed out wide right, which I do like, but I think that's the Whitecaps' biggest need at the moment. All right, quick review of last night, the Montreal Canadian Championship. Always a good time of year, mid-July, right when the games are getting crucial in MLS. You throw a random
cup match
in there to try and get those young guys going.
I like cup matches, though.
No, it's good. It's good. Win or loss for the Caps. Alejandro Silva scored for the Montreal Impact.
Yeah, not good. I didn't think they... I think, obviously, they, like you said, they gave chances to their younger players. And I guess they didn't step up necessarily as much as they... I mean, they didn't get blown out.
No,
and they did have some chances.
That's true.
They hit the crossbar, they hit the post, but then similarly, I believe Montreal also, they also hit the post. And they did give a good effort, but I don't think they necessarily have the talent to compete with the group that Montreal sent out.
Yeah, and we were talking about that on the way here. Montreal had 4 of their starting back 4. Questionably, they had 1 starting midfielder that you would normally have in MLS. And then their front 3 was Vargas, Hamel, and Silva, who scored the goals. Those 3 right there speak quality to that team. So I think Remy Gard, the Montreal coach, went into that game with the mindset of, hey, let's win this one at home. 1-0, very respectable result for the the team the Caps put out, which didn't have a whole lot of MLS experience, but it had Canadian Championship experience as well as academy or residency with the Caps, so that was huge. David Norman, congrats to him. First start with the Caps boyhood team.
He played pretty well.
He did. He was very good in midfield. Towering presence. Michael McCall loves those crunching David Norman tackles. So good result for the Caps going into next week. Hoping for them to get a goal last night, but you know what? Just got to shut out Montreal at home, sneak one in, maybe another one. Good to go. All right, moving on to the Saturday. Seattle Sounders. First game against them this year.
Yeah.
10th in the West. Very surprising considering the quality this team has. 4 wins, 4 losses, 9 draws. That number really jumps out at you. Given up 23 goals, scored 16, 18 points on the year. Nick, what has gone wrong for the Sounders team?
I think they're just getting old. That's my... if you look, this is a team that they won the MLS Cup, and it's kind of just they're getting older. Maybe they're getting more tired. Maybe they need more rest. I don't know. I mean, there is depth in that, but I mean, what's the average age of...
Yeah. To your point, after making the MLS Cup final last year, you thought, hey, maybe this team will
do it again.
Yeah, and push for the playoffs.
And they could be, and they did it 2 years in a row, back to back, going to the MLS Cup final.
After 2 years, you kind of think, hey, the Galaxy did it for 3-4 years in a row, and they still had success. But now you kind of see the backsplash after last year, below the playoff line. But now with Seattle, they still have quality players. Dempsey's getting up there in age. Chad Marshall, their center back, is up there in age. Alonso getting up there. Fry. Again, you said, good quality players, but you can't have them starting and playing the full nine in every game.
I think that's the problem, is you can't have all of them starting every game. It's a bit about veteran presence and giving the younger people more opportunities and allowing those veterans to coach them in a sense, and give them the hints and the tricks of the trade.
Yeah. I think Seattle, one of their biggest problems this year, we'll talk about their defensive stature in a minute, but has been definitely goal scoring. Times this year they've had Will Bruin and Clint Dempsey as a striker partnership, 2 very similar players in their playing style. That doesn't really scream goals to you. Before it was Obafemi Martins, Clint Dempsey. Now it's Will Bruin, Clint Dempsey. But now you see what we'll talk about Rui Diaz in a minute, but you just see, how they've kind of transitioned different ways with Schmetzer in charge now.
Yeah.
Moving on to their defensive struggles, they have the lowest goal differential of teams below the playoff line, which, like I said, kind of jumps out at you. The Caps have the highest right now, second highest, of the teams below the playoff line, which, not really good.
No.
But, I mean, then again, Whitecaps have scored a lot more goals than Seattle have. So, like we said, struggle with injuries this year. Morris, Alonso, and Leerdam have missed time with injury, and then Svensson and Torres were gone to the World Cup. Torres is really the one that you feel like they would miss a lot more. Yeah. Kim Keehee, their new guy this year, stepped in pretty well alongside Marshall.
Yeah, he did a good job.
Yeah.
Especially maybe not being your... I mean, when I look at him from, watching... He doesn't seem like the imposing physical center back presence, but he's very tactically kind of aware, and his positioning is quite good. So,
well, and you look at that signing now that looked like a good signing by Schmetzer, because what have they had? What would they have if Torres was gone? It was just Marshall. They can't have three at the back. They needed somebody else to cover. Seattle coming in a little bit on a streaky run. Unbeaten in last three. They beat Colorado 2-1. Scoreless draw against New England, and then drew it against Atlanta on Sunday in the big game after Fox. It's not really a big game after World Cup final. Anyways, they tied it up late, second half equalizer. And
lots of drama.
Yeah, a 10 men. They went down to 10 men as well. So a big draw for Seattle in that one.
Yeah, I think they're coming in, and maybe they've kind of figured out what they need to do, but then again, maybe it's a bit too late in the season when you're coming into the home stretch of the season, and you're kind of are in the 10th in the West. That you need to basically win everything if you want to get into a playoff spot, and it's going to be very, very difficult. And you also have to have other things go their way. I mean, doable. I mean, this team went to the MLS Cup twice, so like you said, they have that experience. But then the question is, are they going to be over reliant on those tired legs, or are they going to be able to sprinkle in the experience when needed? I think, to me, that's the key question, is are they just going to go for it? This is their last shot together, and then it's going to be blown up in the off season, or are they going to try and rotate them appropriately?
Yeah, that's going to be interesting to watch. I mean, hasn't been a real, would you say, sore thumb incident for Seattle too. It said, hey, this is why they're performing poorly. It's just been a string of bad results, unable to score at home. They've had some bad home results, which is unlike Seattle. Yeah. This is why I'm thinking on Saturday the Caps have a good shot. I'll be there. I don't know about Nick. I think you're going on the island, so that'll be a fun trip for you. But fourth trip to the Whitecaps. I think I have 1 win, 1 draw, and 2 losses. So that'll be, hopefully my luck there will help the team. Looking forward to cheering on with the Whitecaps supporters down in Seattle. Next up for the Sounders is San Jose. Good chance for them to perform as well. So two teams that are struggling a little bit in the Caps and San Jose. They can probably win those 2 games. Yeah,
these are totally winnable games. Yeah. And on paper at the beginning of the year, I think you would have said, these are winnable games for this team. They should do well. But again, that's why you play games. They're not played on paper.
Yeah, exactly. Especially the Sounders, rather poor form this year. Fans have been calling for signings. Seattle have been predominantly good spenders in the past, like I mentioned, Dempsey, Martins. Mm-hmm. They already signed Raul Ruidiaz, who played well at the World Cup with Peru. Always liked him. Played with Monarcas in the Liga MX. Slated to make his MLS debut this weekend. Again, when do players ever make their debut when coaches say they're going to? You just want to bring fans in. He's supposed to play in Atlanta last week. Didn't happen with the 10 men for Seattle. Yeah, good chance for him this week. Another Argentine forward on the way, hopefully next week. What is their biggest need right now? Besides Ruidiaz, big signing, big DP, but I feel like there's still defensive issues underlying, especially with Alonso getting up there in age
and Chad Marshall,
as well,
getting up in age. So I think, but right now their defense seems good. And if they want to really just make a push for this is like the one last go, one last roll of the dice for a lot of these veterans, then you may as well bring in some more attacking talent. I can see that from the strategic kind of point of view, bring in some young attacking players who maybe can, run more and play off those more maybe older creative players, and then sprinkle them in when needed. So I actually think it's a good move for them. And I understand why they're doing it. And then maybe in the off season, look for maybe a more long-term solution for your defensive problems.
I think it's so hard to sign players mid-season and have them find success. Look at the Caps, Barry Robson, Kenny Miller. It worked out to a certain extent, but just for long-term didn't really pan out. So the Whitecaps the Sounders are going to have to plan accordingly. This next question here for you, Nick, goes kind of hand in hand. Dempsey's still around. Mm-hmm. Is this the beginning of the end / the Sounders it's kind of a second half team. Like, do you see both of those, Dempsey's career, Sounders finishing hand in hand, sort of?
I think when Dempsey goes, how Dempsey goes, the Sounders go.
That is true, yeah.
And that's why I think maybe that over-reliance on him, perhaps now when he's hit he's degrading. I don't want to sound too harsh on him, but essentially he's having less and less of an impact in games. So if your star player and your star forward is having less and less of an impact in the games, then your team is not going to do as well. I would love to see him come on as a super sub. I think he could do that for a while, for a much longer period. And, I mean, I guess that's the case of getting him on board with that is your role here now.
Yeah, and it's harder for players that have had so much success in the past internationally and within MLS to come on as a sub. You know what? That's what you got to accept. If you want your team to have success, you're going to have to come off the bench. Do it that way.
It's a question, I guess, of will he be able to put the team before his own ego?
Let's be honest, probably not.
Yeah, exactly.
Because it's Clint Dempsey. To be fair to Dempsey, though, I think one issue that may be not helping his success is Jordan Morris, who got injured last year, tore his ACL this year. I think he had an Achilles injury all the year. I mean, that was supposed to be his guy in Seattle, and now he's having to do it with Will Brewer. Now, Rui Diaz, as I mentioned, good player, but you have to think the chemistry there just didn't really happen after those two injuries.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's pretty tough for Morris as well, because he was really being hyped as their next
watching
his
those
replacement.
Two play. Those two together are very good. Morris on his own can be a star for the future as well.
Yeah, I really hope that he bounces back, because he's super young and he has a lot of
Seattle boy as well. So
yeah, exactly. He's a local talent, and it's always good to see local talent helping out their home team. As much as it pains me to say that.
Yeah, exactly. All right, so with Seattle preview done, it's time for this week's Do You Know Who I Am? All right, Nick.
All right.
Tough 3 ones I threw at you last week. You performed well.
Okay.
It was good. This week, though, current MLS player to start with. I was born on February 5th, 1995.
Young player.
Okay. Yeah, good math. I've played for my national team at the U17, U18, U20, U23, and senior levels.
Okay.
I played for a team in Mexico for 4 years, making 83 appearances and scoring 4 goals.
Mexico.
In Mexico.
In Mexico. Okay.
Yeah, keep that in mind. 2 of my former teammates on this Mexican team are currently in MLS.
Okay. Still not getting it.
The LA Galaxy held my MLS rights for a year.
Yeah, still no.
Okay. This might give it away. I played in Mexico for the Cholos.
No, this did not give it away.
Okay. I joined DC United in the middle of the 2017 season.
The name is on my tongue.
I'll give you one more clue. This one will definitely, this will end it right here. I scored 2 goals against the Whitecaps on Saturday.
Oh man!
One time,
so
you know it. It's on the tip of your tongue.
Yeah.
All right, I'm just gonna. I'll give you the points this week.
No. That's garbage.
I am Paul Areola.
Yeah.
For all you at home who are keeping track of this one here. Good props to Nick.
I couldn't get the name off.
that
was like, Aurora. Something.
Yeah. That was this week's Do You Know Who I Am?
Hi, I'm Alfonso Davies, and you're listening to the AFTN Soccer Show.
All right, now on to our favorite part of the show, per se, previewing the Whitecaps, who are doing pretty good on the season. 20 games played, 7 wins, 8 losses, 5 draws, a minus 10 goal differential with 26 points. The minus 10 goal differential, second worst in MLS Western Conference. Does stick out at you. We've seen some better performing games. Only giving up 1 goal last night was kind of a sign of hopefully, fingers crossed, knock on wood, things to come. But again,
probably
Whitecaps,
a different lineup then.
Yeah, and I think the Whitecaps were in the past a defensive team. You can point fingers at Tim Parker leaving. You can do whatever you want, but I just think you got to focus on the team right now that we have that's going to be going forward.
Yeah.
With Kendall Waston.
Yeah,
he should be around for next little while, hopefully. Not too much in the transfer chatter front. There's always rumors, but you don't trust those because they're rumors. But yeah, I mean, like, what do you think right now about this team?
I think part of the problem about defending, I mean, yeah, you could say part of it has to do with Parker leaving, and I think that left a big hole.
Yeah.
Was he necessarily worth the money that he wanted? Probably not. But in terms of what you lost when he left and the replacements that we have are not up to what he was offering.
I think that's the best they would have had at the moment. I mean, it was quite late on in preseason that happened.
Yeah.
And you're kind of forced to say, hey, like, we'll have to not really go outside of MLS, but MLS. And picking up Aha, who was kind of on the outs at Orlando City, was a great pickup for MLS quality. But internationally wise, with Parker on the rise in the U.S. men's national team, you got to think there's something on the way. To be fair to Tim Parker, he's having a great season in New York.
Yeah.
Red Bulls, congrats to him and that team. But again, I mean, there has to be something either the end of this year, summer. Like, there hasn't been much chatter on the transfer front for the Whitecaps, which is a little bit surprising. But again, when has Raul really ever dipped into his pockets in the summertime?
Yeah, that's true. And I also think part of the problem, I guess, is like there's been a lot of defensive rotation this year. And I feel like, especially coming at it from, a defender's perspective, if you know what the tendency of your backline teammates is, you can adapt to that, and then you can, become, the whole needs to be stronger than each individual person in that unit.
Yeah, and to your point, it hasn't been just the defense that's been rotating. The midfield has been a constant carousel, if you will. Like, it's just been, you can't have, chemistry when you have the 2 guys in front of you of your back line that are just going
in and out.
Around. Yeah. Like crazy.
And I think that is probably the major problem, is that rotation. I don't mind rotation, and I understand, sometimes we've been forced into it. International absences, injuries. But sometimes the rotation has been, when I think earlier in the season, some players playing very well. Like
Gazal was having a good spot for some time.
And then
Tyward even came in and did pretty well.
and did well. And then they get rotated out. And, well, okay, I get it. You want people to fight for spots, and Robo keeps on talking about that in his news conferences and everything. He's always talking about fighting for spots and training and da-da-da. But at some point in the season, especially defensively at least, I feel, I understand, like, okay, your striker isn't hot, I'm going to take him out, put him in, and maybe that's
it's different defensively.
But I feel like it's so totally different defensively. Like, defensively, you need to have those partnerships. You need to be able to communicate with your partners, and just that ability to just read what your partner, or know what your partner is going to do.
Tendencies, where they're going to be. Yeah.
Exactly. It's so important. And I think that constant rotation misses it. And then, well, when your center back pairing is changing every game, what are you going to do? And I mean, I think maybe with Boston coming back, that'll give a little bit of more solidity and a little bit more leadership as well. Like, I think he's really stepped well into that leadership role on this team. He's always talking to people, and he's scoring important goals when they're needed as well. So hopefully That's what I would like to see less. A little bit less defensive rotation, maybe a little less midfield rotation.
Yeah.
Like, especially coming down the stretch. Pick your guys, stick with them, ride them out, and make sure they know the defensive scheme.
You said Watson talks to people. He yells at them and slaps them in the face. But you know what?
Yeah,
At least it's communication.
At least it's communication,
yes.
right? Like,
so looking at the next few games for the Caps, Saturday away to Seattle, at home to Montreal in the Canadian Championship on Wednesday. It's nice for them to have a nice Wednesday-Saturday home game. I think it's the first of the year for them. So they play Montreal at home next Wednesday, Minnesota next Saturday, and then they play at New York City FC on Saturday, August 5th, if I'm not mistaken. Sorry, Saturday, August 4th. Interesting stretch of games. Minnesota is on the ups. They beat New England last night.
Quintero, fantastic goal. Again.
That just shows you what could have been if the Caps were able to get him. Able to, again. But so big for them.
Alternate history.
Yes, exactly. Whitecaps also playing against New York. That's always a good game to see, with David V always lighting up the Caps with penalties. But, I mean, for now, with the next 4 on the road, Nick, you have to think must be a formation change on the ups. There's been 4-2-3-1s, 4-4-1-1s, 4-4-2s thrown around, 4-4-3-3s a couple times.
Yeah.
What is your ideal formation for the Caps to find success in the coming future?
I think a couple of those things for those games that are coming, I would say, like, the Caps have traditionally done that kind of like low block kind of defensive mentality. And I think what we need is really 1 or 2 holding midfielders for sure sitting in front of the back 4, especially against, teams like Minnesota and Montreal, which have very good wing play. I think that's important probably to have like more that if we push our fullbacks forward, having that extra defensive midfielder, give some support, give some maybe more solidity, helps us with our goals against. I mean, we're going to be playing at home against these teams. I know Minnesota usually doesn't like to push up their fullbacks, but for sure New York FC will, to help in possession. So there'll be some space there. So I think, I wouldn't mind seeing that 4-2-3-1 that we had that, used to be quite popular with the Whitecaps. I wouldn't mind seeing that rolled out on these. I think different tweaks to it would work very successfully against Minnesota, New York, and even against Montreal.
Yeah, Yankee Stadium in New York has been a tough place to play for teams in the past, and that'll be a big one for the Caps to try and come over Saturday, August 4th, as I mentioned. Right now, goals have been in, and they've been in the back of the net, and they haven't been, and there's been games where you feel like the Caps should have scored 15. There's games where the Caps have scored 1 or 2, and they probably should have scored 1 or 2. What do you see ideally right now with, Reyna, Kamara have had their bright spots. Davies has had his bright spots. Sechera has been one of the leading goal scorers for the Caps, but he's been missing the last 3 games with suspension after saying those comments. I feel like he has to be back in there for Saturday, but what's your ideal success for the Caps going forward? I
feel that the key is really getting Davies on the ball. That's part of it. Reyna on the ball, and Kamara. Those 3 are, and I think Teixeira is very streaky though. So right now he's, I guess, a bit cold. He played in the Canadian Championship, so we might not see him. I don't think there's a high likelihood that we see him out there against Seattle. Although he has done usually pretty well.
He has
against Seattle.
Yeah, he has done well against the Sounders. Yeah, like I said, want to get Davies in the ball. Whitecaps have had some fun in Seattle with their, I believe it's a bit of a bigger pitch, but they like to play it out wide there. Blundell's touches last night weren't perfect. Hurtado came on, didn't really perform. He was Hurtado when he came on. Wouldn't mind seeing Meyer Bevan sometime, either starting a game. I think he definitely has a chance to get into the 18 against Montreal next week, maybe come on later on after that loan. Kamara is doing as expected, as I mentioned. He hasn't been terrible. He hasn't been, Columbus Kai Kamara. He's been Whitecaps Kai Kamara. That's what we need right now. We need goals at times where we need them, and I think when he's played, he scored. No real signings. I talked about this briefly the last podcast as we had the week off last week. But Nothing rumored at this point. I mean, going out wise, people talked about Breck Shea looking disinterested lately.
Yeah.
I mean, like I said, I'd like to see a midfielder to hook up with Waston and the striker.
Yeah, like a deeper line
playmaker.
midfielder.
Which, I mean, Felipe, I didn't mention him, but Felipe's done well, but I feel like he's kind of suited more in an attacking midfield role when Reyna maybe can't provide that. Maybe really put Reyna out wide, put Felipe in the middle. Wouldn't mind seeing that.
Yeah.
But, I mean, again, like, I feel like just one signing or two could even just boost this team, whether it's big or minimal. Caps would like to see somebody. And if not, maybe this summer, then maybe it has to be in the winter transfer window. There's got to be some rotation to get the fans' bums back in seats, and that's one of the biggest things.
Yeah.
Waston, Aha, is that who you see as centre-back pairings right now?
Yeah, although I think Henry is kind of close to that because he played really well. So I wouldn't mind seeing Waston and Henry try that out, see what happens. Mon played pretty well last night. He was okay. He wasn't didn't make too many mistakes. But yeah, I think Henry it's like Waston, Aha, Henry, Mond. That's my
we've
ranking.
Bond, good experience with Toronto FC. Aha coming into Orlando and doing well. Daniel Henry has looked very good. The one thing I like about Aha and Waston is, we talked about this in depth in the preview before, the Spanish connection is massive in MLS. And even with centre-back pairings along the back line, like, you got to have some sort of communication, whether it's English or Spanish or whatever language, but it's good to have the same language between two centre-backs. Midfield would be key. Who do you go with for this game? And I'll kind of go with our starting 11, which we'll preview after this.
I mean, we've seen so many different variations of the Whitecaps midfield, but I wouldn't mind seeing the Whitecaps kind of try to match, and especially with, I think we're going to need a little bit more defensive solidity against that creativity that can come from Seattle, even though it's not necessarily clicking right now. And, maybe draw them in a little bit more. So I wouldn't mind seeing a little bit more defensively minded midfield. I think Felipe should be in there. I would like to have had Gazal start this game instead of the Canadian Championship, but that isn't what happened. So
we can't always have it our way.
You can't have it our way. Yeah. We're not the coach.
No, we're not. Sometimes I wish we were, but I'll have to settle for a FIFA manager anyway. So
or football manager.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, for all you football manager fans. So let's go over our starting 11s quickly here. In goal, Runneth back. He made some fantastic saves last night. That's something you wouldn't normally see from a keeper out of action for a couple months. As much as I would love to see Runneth in goal, I think, talk about coming off an injury, you have to put Rowe back in there.
I think Rowe will probably be going in for what you said.
There's a bit of travel involved as well. Montreal back to Vancouver, then they go to Seattle.
Yeah.
Again, Seattle's on a long flight or train ride, but coming from Montreal to Vancouver and then going back to Seattle in 3 days, that can get a little tiring.
Yeah.
So we're saying Rowe and goal, agreement there?
Yeah.
Okay. Along the back line, Sean Franklin came on as a sub, but I always love Nowinski playing against the Sounders. He's only had 1 year playing against them, but he did play 5 games total against them last year. Loves to get forward, very aggressive right back. Do you see him in there, or do you want Franklin? Or maybe even a sleeper in there, like a Juarez, or... As funny as that sounds, I don't know why I said it, but you never know with Robbo.
I like Nowinski. I think he's won that spot for this year.
He's been a steal of a draft pick last year.
Oh yeah, fantastic.
I think with the Williams situation last year, if we didn't have Nowinski, we would have been absolutely screwed.
Yeah.
It's fair to say. So Nowinski right back. I'm going to say Nowinski as well. Franklin has been hot and cold. I think Nowinski's the hotter of the two. He stays in there. Center back, I want to see Waston back in if he's fit. I don't want him subbed off at time again.
Yeah.
So Waston. And then again, age-old question, Henry or Aha?
I think this game, Aha.
Aha probably better matches up with Waston against Dempsey. Waston Dempsey is so fun to watch.
Yeah.
They're just like two brothers fighting over a Christmas gift.
Well, also, Dempsey versus Tybert is also...
That is true. That
fantastic.
Is true. Yes.
They've had some good...
Back and forth
as well.
So that's the two in the center back. And then the left back, I think it will be De Jong.
Yeah. I would imagine that.
DeJong plays well. He likes those crosses out wide. Defensive mid. Just talked about this. I want Felipe to talk about defensive. Felipe can be defensive when needed and going forward, linking up with Reyna beside him.
I think,
or Tybert, or
I think Juarez.
You think Juarez? Okay.
Yeah. I think because I do think he has and this kind of goes back to the passing, like who can we have to link from Waston to the front, and I think Juarez can do it, but I don't think he's really been. We've seen great passes out of him. We've seen smart play out of him, but then we've also seen idiotic play out of him. So I mean, I'd like to see him given an extremely defined role, maybe to be like, your job is to come in, get the ball, and then get it forward.
Yeah.
Don't do anything stupid. Don't get in any fights.
No yellow cards. That he's been famous for doing.
Yeah.
I think he's provided a lot. Not a whole lot, but a lot going forward with the Whitecaps when he got that assist to Much against Chicago. It was a great through ball. With one thing we didn't really mention, Jordan Much has played well. I don't know how he's going to get into the team chair back in. I don't think you can have a Felipe Much combo because it's way too attacking. Maybe a Much and
but
Juarez,
maybe Much plays on the wing,
which I have thought about. But again, I do want to chair back in there. But again, to chair rarely,
but then to chair
Wednesday, Saturday games.
Yeah, exactly. So I think it would actually not be a bad shout to see Jordan Much taking to chair's place.
Now that I think of it, the left backs of Seattle, Francis and Tolo or Nuhu, very fast, and Much is good defensively. So we could counteract that, maybe tire them out, and then bring on a chair or a Shea, whoever, to kind of counteract that.
Yeah.
Plays smartly, Robbo. He's a tactical mastermind. He knows how to play against these Northwest teams. Okay, then right mid, you see Much. I see Teixeira coming back in.
Okay.
I think Felipe and Juarez will be not ideal, but Gazal will, I'm sure, come in and provide defensive cover off the bench. Attacking mid, you got to go with Reyna.
Yeah, for sure.
For sure. Left mid, I don't know what this one. Let's see. Alfonso Davies?
Yeah, maybe.
Yeah, okay, all right.
Maybe.
Yeah. And then striker...
Kamara.
He didn't play on Wednesday. It's got a week rest. Kamara has to be back in there. I mean, Davies didn't even appear last night, so he will definitely be back in there. Reyna wasn't even in the 18th. So.
And definitely, I think when you have Kamara, Reyna, and Davies, you have your three best attacking players.
Yeah.
And they work so well together. I mean, that's a fantastic triangle. So when they get on the break, they seem to know exactly where to go. They pass between each other fantastically. So I think that's a good sign.
All right, so that is our preview for this week for the Whitecaps. Quickly on a prediction game now. Last week, so this is for the Chicago game. So this is 2 preview shows ago. Or 1 preview show ago, as we didn't record last week. So Joe...
Due to baby.
So funny story about that. I was going to say this. I didn't have a perfect time. So me and Joe agreed last week to record after the Rovers game. So I talked to the groundskeeper, Burnaby, we won't lock you in, whatever, I'll keep the gates open. So we're ready to go after the game, plug in the microphone into my laptop, sit down, have a sip of water. Joe goes down to get the stats signed with the coaches for the league. And I see him running back up, and I'm like, I didn't think we were in a rush to record this podcast.
He really wants to record the podcast.
I was like, we got no time crunch here, Joe. And he comes in, he's like, I gotta go. I was like, okay. And then that was it for last week. So if all you're wondering why we didn't record last week, that is why. Again, congrats to Joe and Caroline on that one. But yeah, it was an interesting turn of events, to say the least. And I was just sitting there by myself and just shock of what happened. But congrats to him. So happy for those two. Yeah,
although I haven't seen the baby, so I mean, maybe it's just...
Have any of us seen the baby? It's Joe and Caroline are doing great, so it's good for them. So last week's prediction game for the Chicago match, Joe had a Davies assist. Yes, should have had 3 or 4 credited to him. He only had 3 assists credited to him. He only had 1. Bashti yellow. No. Kamara less than 3 shots. No, he had 6 against Chicago. That's crazy.
Wow.
For me, I had the Caps scoring. They had 3. That's good. Mond yellow, didn't play. Reyna goal, no. Nick had a Katai goal. No, but that Shawnee goal, that was a very nice goal.
Very sick.
Very good goal. Davies goal, no. Aha with 7 headers. No, we had 2. So the standings, close. Standings are Joe with 13, me with 10, double digits for the first time in AFTN preview podcast history. And for Nick, you were at 7. I'm going to go up to 8 because your performance last week in the prediction game was fantastic. You handling all those Do You Know Who I Am just absolutely thrown at you was just brilliant. All right, so Joe's predictions are already in. I'm going to get yours first, Nick, and then I'll read out Joe's.
Okay. I'm going to go with Ladero will get an assist.
Ladero assist, okay.
No Caps goal in the first half.
Okay.
And then Rowe with 2 punches.
I'm the one that has to find these stats, right? Okay, with 2 punches, you said.
Yeah.
I swear. Okay, so Joe had no Caps goal at all. At least 1 red, which, it's Vancouver Seattle. That's a given. Mm-hmm. And then he also had Ladero assist. So if Ladero doesn't get an assist, you guys are 0 for 2.
Yeah.
I have a Rui Diaz. That's a tough one to say. Rui Diaz goal. I said the Whitecaps are going to have 4 yellows, and Davies will have 5 crosses because the Caps love to play wide in Seattle. Mm. All right. That has been this week's AFTN Weekly Preview Podcast. Nick, where can people find you on Twitter?
At SpaceAgeRobot56.
And I am at _Gideon Hill on Twitter. Thank you for listening, and enjoy the match.
When you're listening in some far-flung corner of the globe to the World Service of a Saturday afternoon, crackly reception, interference, cosy, marvellous. Somehow comforting, isn't it? Legendary names, fathers and sons on the terraces, cheesy peas at half-time, pint for dad, mum's at home making the tea. Everything's all right with the world, isn't it? Saturday afternoon is football.